Next, on Current News, Pope Francis is back to work. The Holy Father will be leading the people in prayer this Sunday, a week after undergoing intestinal surgery. A relic of the teen who could become the world's first millennial saint is coming to Brooklyn. How Blessed Carlo Acutis, the servant of God, is inspiring Catholics around the world.
It's hard not to feel like, okay, how do I become a better Catholic compared to this young man? How do I get there?
And the death toll continues to climb in the Surfside building collapse. Dozens are still missing. Catholics in Miami are praying for the victims and their families. Plus, New York City finally has a Democratic mayoral candidate. It was a long road to the primary, but Catholics got guidance from the Diocese of Brooklyn. We'll tell you how. The news starts right now. Welcome to the special edition of Current News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Pope Francis' recovery is going as planned. The Vatican confirming the Holy Father will lead the Sunday Angelus from his hospital room a week into his recovery from intestinal surgery. The pontiff has also resumed working and has celebrated Mass at Gemelli Hospital after having part of his colon removed to treat diverticulitis on July 4th. Reports of his treatment and recovery have been mostly positive. Holy See officials confirming the Holy Father is eating and moving around unassisted. Pope Francis did temporarily run a fever. Doctors performed chest and abdomen scans to rule out any chance of infection. They all came back negative. The Vatican has described his surgery as a planned procedure. The bowel problems the 84-year-old Pope was experiencing are very common in older people, although only 10 to 20% of those with similar problems require surgery. Jessica Easthope reports on the operation and the Pope's speedy recovery.
I was actually quite stunned. In my experience, they usually a couple of days before they have they give the patient clear liquids before he eats solids. But from what I read this morning, he was given a solid food meal already.
The Pope's surgery to remove part of his colon that had narrowed lasted 3 hours. Dr. Robert Tabali of the Catholic Medical Association explained how it was done.
They basically snipped at one end, snipped at the other end, and then reattached almost like you would a garden hose.
The condition is called stenosis. It happens when little pockets form inside the intestines and can cause blockage.
The Pope has been suffering from recurrent diverticulitis, which is an inflammation of pouchings of the bowel called diverticulosis.
Diverticulosis is common and on the rise across the world. In the U.S. alone, nearly 60% of adults over the age of 60 have it. Dr. Tabali says that's because the walls of the bowel weaken.
With age, the inner lining actually herniates through the muscle walls.
Sometimes people who have diverticulosis don't know it because there are no obvious symptoms. But those trying to prevent it stay away from food like seeds and popcorn.
This can get filled with non-digestible food matter and can block fecal material in there, which can lead to infection.
Normally, diverticulosis doesn't become a threat until your late 40s. The only way to prevent it, stay on top of getting colonoscopies. Based on his seemingly speedy recovery, the Pope most likely had his surgery done laparoscopically through his belly button. Jessica Easthope, Current News.
Following news of the Pope's surgery, Catholics and well-wishers around the world have been sending the pontiff their good wishes and prayers. Shortly before Pope Francis was hospitalized, he received this pectoral cross made from the remains of a Chilean church destroyed by arson. The church was attacked while the country was experiencing protests ahead of a referendum to determine a new constitution. A Chilean church official said the Pope was emotional when he received the gift. Also praying for the Pope, children from 2 of Rome's largest hospitals. They sent the pontiff get well cards with some drawings of the Pope done by the kids. One of them even asked the Holy Father to visit the Vatican's Children's Hospital when he has recovered. Prayers for the pontiff also coming from his predecessor, Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. The Holy See says the Pope Benedict is thinking of Francis with affection. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops wishing the Pope well and applauding the pontiff for thinking of the sick while he recovers. Head of the USCCB, Archbishop Jose Gomez, saying in a statement, the bishops also offer their prayers for all those who are ill and for those who work in the medical field. While the Pope's procedure is fairly common, that hasn't stopped media outlets from exploring potential negative outcomes. I spoke with Crux editor John Allen about the media's tendency to dramatize the Pope's health and why the Vatican continues to remain tight-lipped on the topic.
The Vatican gives you these anodyne 3-line daily bulletins, which boil down to the Pope is fine, and that's all you get. Now, in part, that is because the Vatican has always contended that the details of the Pope's health are a matter of his private life, and frankly, they don't owe us an explanation. But in any event, you're right. What it does is create this vacuum in which, in the absence of hard information, what media organizations often fall back on is speculation.
John says Catholics don't need to fear the Pope's health in this case, since the Pope seems to be making a full recovery. While recovering, the Pope sent his condolences to the people of Haiti, expressing sadness at, quote, the heinous assassination of the country's president. Following the murder of President Jovenel Moïse and the wounding of his wife Martine on Wednesday, the Holy Father is condemning all forms of violence as a means of resolving conflicts. The bishops of Haiti also denounced the assassination, saying violence only leads to more violence. Here in the Diocese of Immigrants, Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio and Auxiliary Bishop Emeritus Guy Sansaric released a joint statement on Haiti's situation, saying, "We join with the many Haitian American Catholics who call our diocese in Brooklyn and Queens home in praying that calm and peace will win out during this distressing time. We know the uncertainty of what may happen in their ancestral homeland is weighing heavy on their hearts and minds. We ask the Lord to bring them comfort during this difficult time." This comes as more details emerge about the suspects behind President Moïse's assassination. According to Haitian authorities, the heavily armed commando unit that raided the president's home was comprised of 26 Colombians and 2 Haitian Americans. Following a shootout Wednesday night, police apprehended 17 of those attackers and killed 3. At least 8 others are still at large. Now to the ongoing tragedy in Surfside, Florida, as the death toll continues to rise. Recovery teams painstakingly sifting through the rubble and debris have recovered an additional 14 victims, bringing the total to 78. Among those found, the 7-year-old daughter of a Miami firefighter and 3 family members of the First Lady of Paraguay. Dozens more are still missing.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
In a show of solidarity, the families of the missing and members of the community came together to pray at a growing makeshift memorial wall near the site of the collapse. The mayor of Surfside expressing hope that it becomes permanent in honor of those lost. The Archdiocese of Miami also held a prayer vigil for the dead and missing. Mourners gathered to recite the rosary in both Spanish and English, a reflection of the diversity of South Florida. Archbishop Thomas Wensky of Miami joined Boston Cardinal Sean O'Malley to pray for the victims. The Archbishop visited the memorial wall last Friday. It was the first time the head of the Archdiocese of Miami visited the site, but he told Currents News Catholics in his archdiocese and around the country have been supporting the victims from the start.
Since the disaster happened, we've had people from Catholic Charities on site, from Catholic Health Services on site, and they are available to the families of the survivors. There's a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, and basically during this time we have to accompany those people in their pain.
Archbishop Wensky said the pastor from St. Joseph's as well as first responder chaplains are also available for survivors and their families. Turning now to some big news for the Diocese of Brooklyn. One of the relics of possibly the first millennial saint is about to arrive. Blessed Carlo Acutis, the 15-year-old tech whiz, is quickly becoming one of the most popular names in the Catholic Church. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has his short but amazing story.
Songs have been written about him and art exhibits dedicated to him. But soon you can experience Carlo Acutis' legacy firsthand. One of his relics will be coming to the Diocese of Brooklyn this Wednesday and will be presented to Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio. If canonized, Blessed Carlo Acutis will be the first ever millennial saint. Acutis died at the age of 15 in 2006, within just a week of being diagnosed with leukemia. His mother gave him the nickname Cyber Apostle of the Eucharist because Acutis combined his two passions, technology and the body of Christ, with a website he designed cataloging every Eucharistic miracle. Before his evangelization efforts surrounding the Eucharist touched the world, they touched his own mother. She said, quote, "I started to get closer to the church. I started to go back to Mass, and this was actually because of Carlo. Carlo was, for me, a kind of little savior." Relics belonging to Acutis are responsible for unofficial reportings of his intercession, as well as his first recognized miracle. A 4-year-old Brazilian boy with a rare disorder kissed a piece of a t-shirt Acutis wore and was miraculously healed.
It's hard not to be inspired. It's hard not to feel like, okay, how do I become a better Catholic compared to this young man? How do I get there?
Hundreds of thousands viewed his beatification mass live last October, and more than 41,000 people went to venerate his body when it was on display in Assisi. Now a relic is coming to the Diocese of Brooklyn's more than 1.5 million Catholics. With the arrival of the relic, devotion to Acutis and prayers for his canonization may soon multiply. Maybe the miracle he needs is waiting in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Be sure to stay connected to Currents News and the tablet for the latest information on where and when you can venerate Carlo Acutis' relic. There's a lot more news headed your way. It was a long process riddled with balloting problems, but New York's mayoral primary is finally over. Bishop DiMarzio is here to talk about what's ahead. Plus, frontline workers in the fight against COVID get a ticker tape parade up the Canyon of Heroes. We'll show you the highlights. And she's been making rosaries by hand for over 3 decades, and she isn't slowing down. We'll have those stories and more coming up.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
After 2 weeks of uncertainty, New York City finally has a Democratic mayoral candidate. Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams clinched the nomination, earning the required 50% of the vote needed to win the bid. Election results show Adams beating out former City Sanitation Commissioner Catherine Garcia by a little more than 1 percentage point. Following the news, Adams spoke about his plans leading up to Election Day.
I'm looking forward in the next few months to speak with some of the current mayors and former mayors to talk about how do we make sure we move our country forward. And I think the Democratic Party in particular, they're ready for real change for everyday working class Americans.
Eric Adams will face off against Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa this fall. The Democratic primary race was a long process, made even more complicated by the new ranked choice voting system. The Diocese of Brooklyn remained impartial during the race, but did help Catholics vote their conscience by polling the candidates on important topics for people of faith. Here to talk about that is the Bishop of Brooklyn, Nicholas DiMarzio, with Ed Wilkinson for this week's Into the Deep. Ed.
Thank you. Well, the choice for mayor in New York City is our topic today. We're happy to have Bishop DiMarzio with us again today. Bishop, in a recent column in the tablet, you said it's important that that the church not be on the side of any one politician. You know, we don't endorse candidates. Why do we make that effort to say something like that?
Well, I think neutrality is the only way the church can really survive in any kind of an environment that's politicized. And this is a very political city in this sense. And we really can't back a candidate that would somehow infringe on the freedom of people to make their own choice. I mean, obviously they can choose whom they want. We can try to guide them with issues that we think are important. We ran a questionnaire which was printed in the tablet about the issues that were most of concern for the church. Some of them were with the schools, other safety issues, a few other things that were there. And I would say, in general, they all responded favorably. Those who responded, there were 5 or 6 that did not respond. Mm-hmm. Maybe they didn't want to show their hand or what, but we don't know why they didn't respond, but they all had the same opportunity. And we tried to kind of frame it so that from the people who did respond, some of them are in the running. It would be good. I mean, we would be able to hold them to it, say, you know, you did say you were going to have security in our schools, that we're going to have nurses in all our schools. These are the things that we're looking for from the city that the mayor can do with the Board of Education, obviously, and things of that nature we really are concerns to us.
Yeah, that questionnaire was put together with a group called the Catholic Community Relations Board. Right. What is that? I mean, a lot of people don't realize
Well, it's actually a joint organization formed by the Archdiocese of New York and the Diocese of Brooklyn. It was formed under Cardinal Egan and myself. We had the idea that it would be better if we joined forces, and they can lobby, it's a formal lobby group. So we can lobby the city council, the mayor, and even not so much Albany, but it's more the city. And this way we're united because we have common issues, the education, the social services, many other things that affect the church. So we speak with one voice. Our director, Joe Rosenberg, works, with us to come up with the policies that we wish, and he advocates for them.
Yeah. What are some of the issues that jump out that you think are the most important ones for this mayoral race in the fall?
Well, a lot has to do with the Board of Education, unfortunately, because we really didn't get our fair share of the funds that came. We had the Archdiocese had to sue just to get the vaccinations and to get that covered. I mean, it was incredible. Why were we not given the same thing as public safety? Some strange things happen, and again, if you just you sit by the sidelines, we're going to be shortchanged. People pay taxes too. I mean, they should get for their own children what's right. There's a lot of things that come up that you'd have to really analyze, because they have effects that sometimes unforeseen effects. A lot of these property issues would affect the church. They come up with new rules, new ways of doing things. So we really have to be vigilant of what laws the city passes, or city ordinances. So we have to scrutinize them. It's only for our benefit.
It's a tough balancing act, because really you get nothing done unless you have some political clout in New York, and at the same time we're trying to avoid partisan politics.
Well, it's
how
true.
do we maintain that balance?
Well, again, you were able to work with certain legislators that are favorable to the position of the church, and we'd have to know who they are, and we have to work with them. They sometimes can change things. We're not of the mind, like there are some groups, they deliver. I'll deliver the votes for you, do what we want, and you got 5,000 votes for sure. That's not the church. We don't work that way. We do have to be in the public forum. We do have to influence things that for our benefit, but that's other people do it, and we do it the same way, but in the same manner, or different methods.
Sure. Okay, Bishop, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And now we're going to go back to our news desk.
Thanks, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. You can see the poll and read Eric Adams' answers to the top questions Catholics care about on thetablet.org. For the first time in nearly 2 years, New York City held a ticker tape parade, honoring the frontline workers who brought the Big Apple through the worst of the pandemic. But as Currents News' Emily Drewby reports, the festivities received some mixed reactions.
Look at her! Oh, she makes me cry.
They call her the First Lady of the COVID-19 vaccine.
Thank you, New York.
Sandra Lindsay, the Grand Marshal of the New York City Hometown Heroes Ticker Tape Parade, the first person in America to receive the life-saving COVID vaccine. Following closely behind Michelle Chester, the woman who gave her the shot.
We've accomplished so much, still more to go, but it's a proud moment, and I'm proud of each and every individual standing here.
Sandra, a hero to many.
Because she showed bravery. She took the shot, being the very first one.
Other grateful New Yorkers filled the sidewalk, confetti filled the sky, and essential workers filled the Canyon of Heroes. With her son by her side and her cross close to her heart, Catholic nurse Katie says the pandemic will forever define her career.
It was really, really hard. The things that I saw, I think, is like traumatizing, probably for the rest of my life.
But thousands, including paramedics, EMTs, and firefighters, boycotted the celebration. Instead of a parade, what they want: fair pay and better treatment by the city. Eric Adams, the new Democratic candidate for mayor of New York City, addressed their position.
We have to deal with pay equity, and they decided to boycott. I respect that.
That's what's great about this city.
For some, this was a time to take a stand. For others, this was a moment to let loose after a tense year. The Diocese of Brooklyn had a strong presence at the parade, including Vincent Levien and members of the Emergency Task Force. They were front and center, honored for their frontline work.
To be with heroes that risked their life, we were honored to help save lives, and we're honored to be on New York Presbyterian's float.
Like the Emergency Task Force, Somos Community Care also gets their drive to help others from their faith.
If I didn't have the faith that I have, I don't think I would have been here. Every night when I have doubts, I will go in and I will pray.
In Manhattan, Emily Druby, Currents News.
Still to come on Currents News, it's a beloved Brooklyn tradition that's been celebrated for over 130 years. We'll tell you all about this weekend's Julio Festival. And we'll also introduce you to Rosita, a lifelong Catholic who says her love for making rosaries is a calling from God. We'll be right back. The Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel and San Paulino de Nola, also known as the Julio Festival, kicks off this week. So much fun. The long-standing Brooklyn tradition has been celebrated on the streets of Williamsburg for more than 130 years. It was canceled last year because of COVID, but now it's back, much to the delight of Brooklynites. There will be a Mass at the Shrine Church of Our Lady of Mount Carmel on Sunday at 11:30 a.m., followed by the first lift at 1:30. We'll have a full report on all the festivities this Monday on Currents News. It's a story 100 years in the making about a Queens woman who prays while she works and her work that helps others to pray. Jessica Easthope has the story of Rosita and her rosaries.
There are 59 beads in a rosary.
6 of these for the Our Fathers.
Rosita Lewis knows the breakdown by heart. After all, she's made hundreds.
I don't need any book to tell me that. I know the rosary, and I just keep doing it from my brain. This is precious blood.
It started more than 30 years ago, soon after she joined St. Teresa of Avila Parish. But this isn't Rosita's hobby. She says it's her calling. She's never said no to God or anyone who's asked for one.
Whoever asks me for a rosary, or whoever I think may need one, just give it to them with joy. The space between...
Each bead glides down this string. Rosita says every decade of the rosary has helped keep her alive for so many decades. She just celebrated her 100th birthday.
I have no other recreation, so I believe it's the rosary.
The rosary has become the center of Rosita's faith. She prays it 4 times a day. Over the years, she's sent handmade rosaries to Haiti, Jamaica, and her native Trinidad, hoping they help people connect with their faith.
Make sure it is tight.
Rosita makes her rosaries extra strong.
The knots,
and with every uniform knot, her faith has become unbreakable.
I believe firmly in my God. Anything he says, never doubt it.
Some rosaries she can make in minutes. Others take hours.
You may not succeed with the first one, but keep trying.
It's easier said than done.
In green. Green, yeah.
Rosita takes it one section at a time, the same way she's lived her life, one day at a time.
Sometimes I feel a kind of numbness, but still I can make the rosaries. I said maybe that's my mystery.
Each bead makes Rosita's rosaries complete, and each rosary helping her complete her life's mission. In Jamaica, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
I just love her. And that wraps up this special edition of Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.